Poor Dad walked with a woman so she felt safe at night, not realizing she was a CEO who fell for him. The wind was sharp that night, biting through the thin layers of George's second-hand jacket. His shoes, worn thin at the soles, clicked steadily along the sidewalk as he guided his cart of recycled cans and bottles back toward the shelter. He wasn't thinking about much, maybe just how long it would take to earn enough to buy his son a decent winter coat. It wasn't easy being a single father scraping by in the shadows of a city that never slowed down. But George believed in one thing more than anything else: being kind costs nothing, and sometimes, it was all he had to give. He noticed her from across the street, alone, walking fast but glancing back now and then, as if the dark itself had grown teeth. A tall man had passed her moments earlier, his gaze lingering too long, his steps too deliberate. George's instincts kicked in. He crossed the street, staying a careful distance behind her, hands visible, pace steady, making sure she knew she wasn't alone. She glanced back once, tense, but then her shoulders lowered ever so slightly. "Hey," George called gently, raising his hands. "Don't mean to scare you. Just thought, maybe you'd feel safer if I walked behind you a bit." She hesitated, then nodded, offering a polite smile. "Thanks. It's a weird night." "Yeah," he said. "Weird world." They walked together like that, a few feet apart, step by quiet step. She didn't ask about the cart or the worn clothes. He didn't ask why someone dressed in what looked like $1,000 coat was walking alone in a neighborhood most people only drove through with windows up and doors locked. "I'm George," he offered, nodding to her side. "Rachel," she said. "Thanks for doing this." "Of course. I got a daughter. If she were out here alone at night, I'd hope someone would walk behind her, too." Rachel's eyes lingered on him for a moment. "That's sweet. Not many men think like that." George shrugged. "Not many men grow up knowing what it's like to be afraid all the time." They reached the intersection where she said she lived nearby, in a high-rise overlooking the river. "You sure you'll be okay from here?" he asked, halting. She turned, hesitated, then pulled something from her purse. A $20 bill. "No, thank you," George said immediately, stepping back. "Not why I did it." She blinked. "I didn't mean to offend you." "You didn't. I want my daughter to know some things are worth doing just because they're right." Rachel smiled, a soft, thoughtful smile. "That's rare." They parted ways, and George didn't think he'd see her again. He rolled his cart back toward the shelter and wrapped himself in wool blankets that smelled faintly of mildew but felt like home. 3 weeks passed. Life trudged forward as usual. George picked up cans, worked odd jobs, and stayed invisible in the city that never noticed. But one gray afternoon, as he was helping an elderly man clean out his garage for a few bucks, a black car pulled up. Out stepped Rachel, same coat, same eyes, but this time, a different energy in her step. "George," she called. He wiped his hands on his jeans, confused. "Miss Rachel?" "I've been looking for you," she said, stepping forward. "I wanted to say thank you again. That night, you didn't know who I was, but you made me feel safer than I have in years." He nodded slowly. "You're welcome. I wasn't entirely honest that night," she continued. "I wasn't just any woman walking home. I'm the CEO of a company, Avalon Tech." George blinked, the name ringing a bell. It was one of those tech giants always in the news. Rachel laughed lightly at his stunned silence. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to be treated any differently. But you." She smiled, "You treated me like a human being, not a title. And I haven't stopped thinking about that since." He nodded, still confused. "Well, I'm glad I could help. I want to offer you a job," she said bluntly. George laughed, actually laughed. "Miss, I didn't even finish high school. I collect cans." Rachel didn't flinch. I know. I read your background. You served. You raised your daughter after your wife passed. You've taken care of others your whole life. We need men like you. We can teach skills. We can't teach heart. He stared at her, heart pounding. You're serious? As serious as the board meeting I skipped to find you. Her voice softened. We have a community outreach division. I want you to help us run it. You'll be the bridge between people like me, and people like you used to be. Something shifted in George's chest. A tension he didn't realize he carried uncoiled. I don't know what to say. Say yes. He did. Months passed. George traded his cart for a keycard, the shelter for a small apartment, and worn boots for office shoes. But he stayed the same where it mattered, always pausing to smile, to listen, to help. Rachel visited the outreach office often, though she insisted it was just to check in. They laughed more each time, spoke longer, sat closer. One evening, after a local fundraiser, she said it without fanfare. I think I'm falling for you, George. He looked at her, eyes wide. I've spent years surrounded by power, by wealth, she continued. But I've never felt more seen, more safe, than the night a man with nothing walked behind me just so I wouldn't feel alone. Tears stung his eyes. I'm just, me. Exactly, she said, taking his hand. The world didn't suddenly become perfect. Bills still came. The past still lingered. But two people, one hardened by struggle, the other isolated by success, found something rare. A connection not built on appearances or wealth, but on decency, kindness, and the quiet ways people care for each other. And George? He still said the same thing, every time someone asked why he helped her that night. Because I have a daughter. And I'd hope someone would do the same for her. Sometimes, the simplest acts echo the loudest. And sometimes, walking someone home is the first step on a path that changes everything.